Good morning. My name is Stef de Ridder. Most of you know who I am. For those who see me for the first time, I'm the founder of GISsat. Let's say a little over 25 years ago, we started GISsat with the idea of using geo-information systems, spatial technology, to bring some development to the country, to use it as a technology to try to understand the dynamics of a very complex world that we live in. And I think the introduction of Christian said it all. Now standing here like 25 years later, it really, and to say it in Flemish, het doet me deugd to see how many people are here in the room. And looking at the booths in the back, looking at what was done the past year, it's thrilling. It's really inspiring. It's inspiring me to even go another 25 years longer to try to be part of this, because this is growing tremendously. So thank you all on behalf of myself personally and on behalf of GISsat on adopting this technology. Now the upcoming 15 minutes that I want to highlight, I want to bring two topics to the audience, two new things that I would like to inform you about. And it's all about creating a uniformed language to actually try to see how we can improve in that data sharing effort that we actually foresee for the upcoming years. First of all, before diving into those two new topics, I would like to explain a little bit, when looking at you, you're all using GIS, all of you. But how can we kind of categorize what you actually do? And we see 5 different ways of using GIS. We have the first approach is the standard GIS usage, where we take a GIS desktop, an ARC map, an ArcGIS Pro, and we make maps. And we print those maps, we make PDFs from it, and we share them. We mail them to each other. A second level is what we call web GIS. So we use that same map data, but we don't want to see it in a software that I need to install. I want to use it on my phone. I want to use a regular browser to access that data. That's what we call web GIS. That's a second level of usage. A third level is doing exactly the same, but not only looking at the data, but also changing the data, putting points on a map from within the field with your mobile phone, basically. A next level is where AI comes to place. And AI is, it's the buzzword of this year. We all know ChatGPT, we all use it. Sometimes Christian really surprised me when we're driving and I'm asking him something and he starts talking about this against his phone, asking a question, and ChatGPT answers. So it's, that's next level. But then again, AI is also present within the GIS industry. Extracting data from, for instance, a satellite image, extracting rivers from a picture. That's how we use AI in GIS. And then the last level of usage is really seeing GIS as an ecosystem of systems. So integrating IoT, integrating smart meters, whether it's a device that measures the altitude of the water, the height of the water in a river, or measures the temperature in a cabinet or in a factory, or that measures air quality or pollution, airspeed. So connecting those IoT systems with GIS suddenly brings GIS to a totally different level. It's becoming part of what we do, how we do it, and it's real time. You see real time what's happening there and you can act upon it. So that's the next level. So what we did, looking at all of you, is in October we kind of tried to categorize where are we now in this journey of adopting GIS, using GIS. And we try to categorize all of you in those 5 levels. We were very surprised that we saw we're way beyond that standard GIS. Many of you adopted, almost all of you adopted to some extent WebGIS. You're using it in apps, you're using it on your mobile phone, on a tablet. A large part of you also use it to change data. Field teams that collect data that is real-time synced back to the office. So WebGIS is a new standard. I remember 2 years ago when I was standing here, we were advocating the usage of WebGIS to share data. Well, guess what? You're there, and intensively. The examples that we saw, the examples you see in the booths, they're a proof of that. Now, how do we do that? How do you do that? You use apps, applications. A lot of apps and applications. Actually, too many apps and applications. Sometimes it becomes confusing. What do I need? I have a limited budget. What should I implement? Should I implement this extension? Should I go for those mobile apps? Or should I use ArcGIS Pro standard or advanced? It becomes quite confusing. We know that. We understand that. Because you do a lot of things. You do mapping, for sure. You make maps. Some of you do analytics. Some of you work with remote sensing. Data management is one of the domains. 3D analysis. You all have specific work packages and types of work that you're on a daily basis are actually doing. So it's already quite complex what you do. The landscape of applications is even more complex. So as from this year, Esri understood this message, because it's not a new message, it's feedback that we got from the customers throughout the entire world. So as from this year, we are introducing 6 new user types. And this is new. Means that you don't need to think in terms of applications. We need to think in terms of what is actually the work that you do, going from the most simple way of dealing with spatial data, viewing data, becoming a viewer, to far right on the bottom, professionals who work with 3D systems, who work with complex data models. And between the viewer and the professional plus, you have several shades of gray. You have people who not only view, but also want to update some data, like a status of a public lightning, whether it's broke or not. Just update the status, not create new geometries. Some of them do create new points and want to do editing in the fields. Well, we call them mobile workers. But to do that, you need an application. And there's some really nice examples of, in the back of EBS, for instance, where you see at the Public Lightning website. Someone needs to create those websites. And in most cases, in your organization, that's 1 person, 2 persons who do that, not more. So for that, we created a user type creator. And Esri said, okay, but if you're a creator and you want to create a website, you need to create content, create a map. So, you know what? When you have this user type, we give you an ArcGIS Pro Basic to do that work. Although you're mainly focusing on organizing a website, you will get an ArcGIS Pro. And then we come on the more professional usage, where you use ArcGIS Pro with several people together working on the same data. And there, the user type Professional and Professional Plus are the user types that we want to introduce. So you don't need to think in terms of, okay, I have this budget that I want to spend, which licenses should I use, what should I buy? And moreover, it could be that you're in a data conversion track the first year, and afterwards, you don't need it anymore. Not to that extent. But you need to do the investment. So you're kind of, it's a difficult exercise to do. How much do I spend in order to get a return on investment? Well, to mitigate that challenge, Esri now introduce the concept of a subscription. If you need to do a data conversion track, well, you can subscribe for 1 year for professional. And after that year, you fall back to viewer and creator. You don't need that expensive license anymore. So it's kind of a Netflix subscription or a gym subscription where you say, I just want to do play with weights, or I also want to use the sauna or the massage, and if you don't need it, you don't subscribe for it. Compare it with Office 365. If you're a project manager, you want MS Project. If not, after a year, you don't activate the module. Same thing as from this year with ArcGIS. So you can decide this year what you want to do with it. So basically, what that means, it's a fit for purpose for you. So what we are going to do as GISsat is we are going to visit you, and we are going to understand and talk with you what is your ideal fit for purpose. What do you need? And come to a kind of a combination of usage so that we can deliver you the technology on different ways, whether it's on a tablet, a mobile phone, a laptop, a PC. It can be scalable in time and very flexible. A last change that will happen is, for now, you use a license manager to activate your software. We're going to get rid of that as well. No license managers anymore. The only thing you need to do is log into ArcGIS Online with your name, and ArcGIS Online will say, Donovan from NMA, you are a professional plus with these extensions. Wherever you are, whether it's in the office, at home, or whenever, you log into ArcGIS Online, and those functionalities will automatically be activated in your desktop. So no installs anymore, only one install, and depending on your profile in that year, you will activate your functionalities. So it's going to be easier, it's going to be more affordable, and especially it's going to be very, very flexible. And that's the general message that we got from you, from the user community. Let's now focus on data. And the introduction was also shown. You're creating a lot of data. Last year we were standing here and saying, we need to share more data, we need to create more data. Well, the proof is there. There's a lot of digital data available out there. And sometimes it's quite complex to see what can I combine with what. So that's our next challenge. We asked for sharing data. Well, you are sharing data. Now the next step is, okay, this vast amount of data that we're now sharing among each other, how should we organize that? So we actually need to have uniformity. And that's the second thing I would like to introduce today. We found a way of creating that uniformity. This is the introduction of what we call the GeoGrid. And GeoGrid is nothing more than kind of a blanket that you drape over Suriname with rasters, zeshoekige rastertjes, with different sizes. You have a radius of, let's say, 100 meters, or it can be 500 meters, or it can be a kilometer. And notice, 7 rasters make a mother raster, and 7 mother rasters make a grandmother raster. So it's basically kind of a pyramid of rasters that you can put on top of each other. So if you zoom out, you see a bigger version of the raster, an aggregated version of the raster. When you zoom in, you can see a more detailed raster. Okay, fine, Stef, you're giving us rasters, and then what? Yeah. Well, with those rasters, we now can play. Imagine that those blue dots that you see there are customers, or observations, or access points of telecom, or meters for water or for electricity. And if I tell you, it's fairly easy now to count all those dots, and the raster, consider it as it's like a shapefile. It's a layer. It's a simple polygon layer. If you now add a column to that layer, and you add the count of those points, you're enriching the raster with some information. I give you one example, because it might be a bit conceptual, but imagine that I drape this raster over Paramaribo, and the houses that you see there are my customers. Yeah? What I ask now to do is to count for every cell how many houses there are. And then add a column in the shapefile and add that figure to the shapefile. So now suddenly the raster is not just a blanket. It's becoming a bit smarter. It's a smart blanket. Because you now see, where do I have the 6s? Oh, I have many customers in that area. The larger or smaller the raster you want it to be, the more data you can add to it. Give you another example. We take a mobile phone antenna with a coverage of 5G. The next question that I had is, define me the rasters that intersect with that coverage area, with that polygon. So that's for the GIS people in here, and I think you're all GIS people. It's an intersection method between a polygon of a coverage and a raster. So basically, what we get here is we say yes when you're covered by 5G or no when you're not covered by 5G. So it's 1 or 0. It's all or nothing. So I now have the same raster where I add another column where I put this information. And now it becomes fun, because the same raster now has 2 columns. One with yeses and nos for the 5G coverage, and one with the number of houses. Well, if my challenge would be, tell me how many households I reach with my 5G coverage, we're actually playing with it. And we're creating a very simple query on the database. We're just saying, select me all the cells that have N a yes, take the number and summarize it. In this example, 69 houses are covered by 5G. It's a very simple example, but imagine all of your worlds. Imagine that instead of 5G coverage, you say, where do I have mining concessions that are operational? Where do I have agricultural censuses with a certain level of information? Where do I have schools? Which rasters are intersected by a road or by a river? Later today, Gerard will present you a presentation on the spatial development goals, sustainable development goals. And actually that's 17 criteria that is subdivided in even more subcategories. And it's all about, do we have accessibility to a school, to public transportation, to telecommunication? Well, it's a very complex set of criteria. This raster will enable you to do that analytics. Some of you will do that analytics. Yeah? Play with point to polygon, intersections, etc. And then the result is this. It's a raster. The most of you, the managers, the people who don't know how to operate the GIS, they're interested in this. And this is the combination of all those fields in a certain combination to create, in this case, it could be a density map reporting where do we have the most revenue from a customer business perspective, or the most complaints, or the most schools, the higher the population. So the raster suddenly can talk to any one of us by combining those columns. So what you need to understand is it's becoming very simple if we all work and contribute in providing those columns to that raster, in exchanging data, because suddenly we're all talking the same. And what we are going to do as GISsat, we are building this. we're going to give it to you. We're going to put it online. We're going to visit you. We're going to install it with you and learn you how you can enrich it with your data, doing spatial intersections, buffer analytics. So we are going to give you this GeoGrid, and I'm at the end of my presentation, but I have one request. I would like next year, one of you to give a presentation on how this GeoGrid is implemented in your organization. And tell us whether it was worth it, whether it's useful, and whether we as a company will continue on investing in this and supporting you with this data. Thank you.